And then if you come to the Western Hemisphere, he's obviously put his gun sights on Venezuela. He's threatened to take the Panama Canal back. He's threatened to make Canada the 51st state. And we're talking these days about whether or not he's going to invade Greenland and make it part of the United States. To take it a step further, he has used military force since taking office in a remarkably liberal way. By my count, he's used military force against 7 different countries. Furthermore, with regard to regime change, at first it looked like he was not going to do regime change because he promised that when he was running as a candidate. But if you look at what he's doing, he's quite deeply engaged in regime change. I think this whole business in Iran is basically a major league American-Israel regime change operation. And the United States has a rich history of trying to do regime change and run the politics of other countries around the world, countries like Venezuela, and it fails in almost every case. You remember we were in Afghanistan for 20 years. Yeah. We did regime change and we thought it would end up happily. We lost after 20 years. Just think about what happened in Iraq. The idea that a bunch of gringos are going to come down into Venezuela, run their politics and steal their oil, and we're going to get away with that, I would not bet much money on that.
And let's come to Iran here, because I'm seeing a lot of, I think, moral hypocrisy and double standards and cowardice, frankly. That a lot of the people who have been so vocal, either by joining marches or Hollywood stars or wherever it may be, big media figures, racing to be front and center in supporting the Palestinians, for example, in Gaza, have been notable by their silence about the Iranian protesters. Now, it may well be, I'm sure it is, that obviously it suits Israel and America that this uprising is happening. Obviously, they would like it to be successful and that the Ayatollah gets removed and the mullahs are gone. I'm sure they would like that. And I'm sure that they're doing everything they can to promote it. But that doesn't mean that there isn't already an organic uprising going on.
I want to ask you a question, Piers. Don't you think it's quite remarkable that Israel and the United States, which have been deeply involved in executing a genocide in Gaza, think about that, a genocide in Gaza, are now making a lot of noise about how terribly the Iranian government is treating the protesters? Isn't this remarkable hypocrisy in your mind?
Well, they're very different circumstances, because what you have in Iran is Iranian.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, they are different circumstances, aren't they? In Iran, you have an uprising not dissimilar to what we've just seen in Syria, actually, which ended up toppling Assad very quickly.
I'm shocked at your rhetoric. In the past, when we have talked, you have readily recognized that the Israelis are committing genocide in Gaza.
I've never said that. I've never said
Furthermore,
that. I've never said that. I've never actually said I believe it constitutes a genocide. I believe it's been a form of ethnic cleansing, but I've not gone as far as saying it's a genocide. My argument with the way Israel's respond is that the response was completely disproportionate, went way too far, and like I said, they've broken a number of laws in the way that they've responded. But I have not actually categorized it as a genocide.
I can't believe that you don't recognize that what the Israelis, with assistance from the Americans, have done in Gaza is a genocide, or if not a genocide, an instance of mass murder. And when the Israelis and the Americans, criticize the Iranian government for using violence against Iranian protesters, that doesn't represent hypocrisy of the first order. All of the major human rights organizations in the world, including B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights group, has said that it's a genocide. I actually think you're minimizing the horrors of Gaza, and I'm actually quite surprised. But I want to switch the gears for a second and make another point. You talk as if these protests in Iran are simply due to the Iranians' dissatisfaction with the government. and that it has nothing to do with the United States. I don't think that's the major reason that they've had enough. The major reason they've had enough is because of the state of the Iranian economy. And what has happened here is that over time, with economic sanctions, we have wrecked the Iranian economy. We are principally responsible for driving these protests. People are protesting the state of the Iranian economy, which is in dire straits, in large part because of American sanctions. Had there been no American sanctions, there would be no protests today. Here's what you're missing is that the previous regime, you were talking about going back to 1975 when the Shah was in control. The previous regime was repressive. It was hated by the population. I agree that the regime under Khomeini is repressive. My view is that's the Iranians' business. It's not your business or my business to go in to Iran and rearrange the politics of Iran. I believe in sovereignty. I don't like the idea of countries coming into the United States and interfering in our politics, and I'm sure you as a Brit don't want other countries interfering in British politics. But the idea that a country like Iran, which is no threat to the United States, or a country like Venezuela, which is no
Iran is no threat to the United States.
Should No, it's not. The argument that they're not a threat to the United States, they're a threat to Israel. And because we're joined at the hip with Israel, anything that's a threat to Israel is a threat to the United States. I don't buy that argument. I'm an American firster. I care about the U.S. national interest. And it is not in our national interest to have this conflictual relationship with Iran. And if it weren't for the fact that the Israelis have so much power in the United States and insist that we keep Iran as an adversary, we would otherwise have good relations with the Iranians.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند